We just talked about 6 players I want no part of drafting. Here's 6 players that I am drafting in every single league. These are guys you want on your roster too, so just be aware of these names. Let's get into it. We're going to go in order this time. 3 running backs, 3 receivers. Keep it simple, cut, dry. Here's the first guy, Breece Hall. I know it may look like a wild card. What are you picking a guy in the Jets for, Mike? You're probably not wrong in asking that question, but let me explain it to you why this guy is an absolute diamond in the rough. Frank Reich is the new offensive play caller for the Jets. Last year, obviously, Justin Fields didn't live up to the hype, but the big thing about Breece is that he's going to be a reception monster this year. In the Frank Reich system, over a 6-year span, running backs on average receive around 69 receptions and about 85 targets. So I actually have the number right here. Let me pull it up. So I went over pretty much Frank Reich's career and pretty much, and don't mind the spoiler stats about this year. But anyway, 2018 to 2023, so pretty much Frank Reich on the Colts, 2018 to 2022, he called plays in Carolina. Over those 6-year span, he averaged out to about 85 targets to running backs and 69.8 receptions after doing the math. So pretty much Breece Hall is in for about 70 receptions. And I was like, first when I looked at Breece, I was like, his numbers are interesting. 1,000 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, only 4 touchdowns, and then receiving, he didn't do anything crazy. But after learning who the offense coordinator is, Geno Smith's a pocket passing quarterback, him going as the RB14, he has potential top 5 upside because of his receiving volume. And we know what he can do in the rushing game. Before he tore his ACL as a rookie, he was averaging 5.8 yards a carry. If he can get back to his 5 yards a carry old self, that would be huge. Obviously, Braylon Allen does play a huge part of the rushing game, and that's where I don't think he'll be as dominant as on the ground. But if he can have 60-ish receptions, kind of like similar to what he did in 2024, where he's got like 65 catches, or even 2023, where he was a number 2 running back, he doesn't have to have an impressive, flashy rushing season. Just look at 2023 and these numbers here: 17 games, 76 catches, 600 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. It doesn't have to look good for Breece, but if you have the receiving volume, you're going to be a top 10, top 5 running back if you have 1,000 yards on the ground. So that's what I'm expecting for Breece Hall in this Frank Reich system. He may not be the bruiser, he may not be the goal line back, but he's an elusive catcher, and he can definitely make a man miss. He's going to be their third down monster. I love Breece Hall in absolutely every draft. Hopefully that convinced you. I know the Jets offense is interesting, but also that defense isn't very good. So you should be thinking to yourself, if the Jets are down, who's going to be on the offense most likely? It's probably going to be Breece Hall. So I think he's going to get at least 60% of the snaps, and when he's in for every third down roll and he's catching 4 or 5 passes a game, that's a great floor for Breece Hall. And a lot of people are skeptical, like, I don't know what the Jets offense is going to look like after doing that extensive research on Frank Reich, knowing, hey, we're targeting Breece Hall, we're going after the running back. That's what his system does. So don't blame me. Blame go ahead and blame the head coach, or the offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, former head coach of the Colts. All right, player number 2. Are you ready? Because this is a bold one too. Cam Skattebo. I love him. Absolutely love the Skattebo. Scat is unreal. I mean, obviously we saw the backflip. Everyone's probably like, oh, no. Holding their breath if you're a Giants fan. I don't, I'm going to knock on the wood for him, on this wood. But I don't care about the injury. You're taking a risk on a guy in the 5th round. It'd be different if, like, Christian McCaffrey in the 1st round. But still, I would rather take that risk on McCaffrey in round 1 and get burned with the injury than lose to him in the championship when he's the RB1 to finish the season. Cam Skattebo, the only thing holding this guy back is injury. That's it. That's why I knocked, because, I'm not jinxing anything. I did the knocking. I did it. Okay. Skattebo last year, look at his numbers: 101 carries, 410 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was barely starting to get going. He had 24 catches in 8 games. He was on pace for 50-plus catches and about 900 yards in his rookie season. Again, 5 touchdowns through 8 games is pretty impressive as well. He's probably going to hit the double-digit touchdown mark. I believe it. With John Harbaugh's system, there's not really a running back competing for Skattebo's job, right? You look at Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary. Are any of those guys actually a threat to stealing his job? No. And you look at what he did last year. Look at the highlights. Look at the videos. He is a guy who doesn't shy away from contact. So I understand that's a reason to why you might want to avoid him, but that's a reason I want to draft him everywhere. So he's going around the 4th round. I think he's a great low-end RB2 with so much upside in this Giants offense. I realized I didn't show you guys the numbers for Scat or Breece Hall, so let's go ahead and look at it, because I have these guys actually right next to each other in the standings. I kind of calculate the seasons pretty much for what I expect, and these are two, I think, reasonable numbers. I mean, yeah, they could be a little high for a guy coming off an injury and a guy in a new offense, but I have Breece Hall as my RB5 and Cam Skattebo as my number 6. And for him going in the 4th round as the RB4, a second-year breakout is totally possible. 1,100 yards. Yeah, the carries are probably a little bit high, but this is assuming, Matt Nagy's system is going to run a run-heavy offense. And even if Skattebo only has 240-something carries and just over 1,000 yards, still with 10 touchdowns, maybe I'm looking at it now, and it's probably a little bit inflated with the 11 touchdowns. 12, I gave him 12 total, but again, 50 plus catches I think is fair. 400 yards, I don't know, I kind of based it off last year's numbers, and it's hard to do that for a rookie, but Breece Hall, 68 catches, 1,100 yards. If they do have these kinds of seasons, these are definitely top 5 finishes, top 5 and 6 finishes, so I think maybe I'm overinflating them a little bit. Maybe Breece and Scat are kind of like 8-9 range, but I still think there's a real possibility they finish top 5. Yes, these numbers are a little inflated, but I think top 12 is a very solid finish for both of these guys. I like Scat a little bit more because of the value later in rounds. Breece Hall still going in the 3rd round, great value there, and Scat going in about the 4th round, so good value there too. Let's go ahead and move on to the 3rd running back in Mr. David Montgomery. Now, there's rumors in training camp. We actually just did that video Monday, so you can check it out. But I'm not worried at all. I'm a Texans fan. Listen, the Texans couldn't run the ball to save their livelihood last year. Nick Chubb couldn't get them anywhere. 2 yards a carry right up the middle. This offense was learning how to function last year. Nick Caley didn't do a good job calling plays. It was pretty much HB dive up the middle, and it did not work. Now you got a new running back in David Montgomery. You got an upgraded offensive line. This is going to be a really good season for Montgomery. The first time he's the lead back since his days in Chicago. I would expect 10-plus touchdowns, 1,000 yards on the ground, 4.5 yards a carry. I personally have Montgomery at 250 carries, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 40 catches. I think the catches are a little bit high. Maybe Woody Marks is a little more involved than I think. But I still think Montgomery's going to be a pretty 3-down workhorse back role. Woody Marks is not going to have a crazy amount of volume in this offense. They're getting him as much reps as they can right now because it's preseason. He's a rookie. He's going into his 2nd year. They want to get him as many reps as possible, and I 100% agree. But with Montgomery, again, I expect kind of like 250-ish carries, 1,000 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. I know he's 29, but I don't really care. He's going to run well, and I feel like this is an offense where the Texans' identity needs to be running the ball so they can take pressure off of C.J. Stroud. The biggest problem C.J. Stroud hasn't been able to throw the ball downfield is because there's been no run game. Even his rookie season, when he did have a good year, there was no good run game. So the good thing with any quarterback, if you have a good run game, you can open up the play action, and you can be a good quarterback off play action. Just look at what Sam Darnold did last year. So if the Texans can be a run team, and Nick Caley is a guy who comes from LA, he was under Sean McVay in the Rams system, I think this is going to be a crazy run-heavy offense, and Montgomery's going to have a full workload. Love him. A lot of people love Bashal Tutin, literally like right after him. If I'm going to take anybody near this 24-ish range, I'm taking Montgomery 100 times out of 100 for sure. All right, now on to the wide receivers. Let's start it off here with one of my favorites, Emeka Egbuka. He's the wide receiver 1 on this team. Look at the targets, right? Mike Evans definitely took up a bulk of time last year. The fact that he didn't even have 1,000 yards last year is kind of wild. The thing I love about Egbuka is pretty much you look at not only the numbers, right, but he's going to be 150 plus target machine this year, 100 plus receptions. Like, this year 2 breakout thing is real. Wide receivers tend to break out in their first 3 seasons. Is that a breakout year? Maybe, but not for like a wide receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba's breakout year was clearly 1,700 yards. I'm not expecting that for Egbuka, but he can definitely get 1,400 yards. And keep in mind, these two players, Baker Mayfield and Egbuka, were both banged up last year. So I love Emeka Egbuka this year. 6 touchdowns. Maybe he'll get a little more. But he's really the only threat in this offense. You could argue maybe Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. You may have Chris Godwin. I mean, he's still been battling that ankle injury. I don't know if that'll be good for him. And then Jalen McMillan, Kate Otten. There's no real clear-cut number one guy. And I think Emeka can definitely do that this season. Third easiest schedule amongst wide receivers. Keep him in mind in the third round. Absolutely love his value. We got 2 more wide receivers to get to, so let's get it. The other name I was going to say instead of Emeka was Ladd McConkey, just because he's going around the same range. But if I'd have to pick one, I'd lean Egbuka just because he's kind of the clear-cut number one wide receiver. As to where Ladd is, he definitely is going to do better with no Keenan Allen, but I think the Bucs offense is just going to be more of a higher ceiling than the Chargers because they're probably going to run a little bit more than the Bucs. Now, this is going to be a pretty shocking name. Rome Odunze, he has not broken out as a wide receiver, right? First year, 700 yards. He was still getting used to Caleb Williams as a rookie. Second year, got hurt. With 90 targets, he actually led the team in targets, which is kind of surprising, right? For a guy who only played in 12 games, 90 targets. If he played the full season, that might be 130 targets. Like, that's the clear-cut number one wide receiver in this offense. So when Luther Burden is being drafted a round earlier, I question why, right? Just because he was this, young rookie, is he going to be the number one? No, he's going to be the number 2 to Rome. But in this offense, Ben Johnson's going to heavily look to Rome Odunze. Hopefully he's fully recovered from that foot injury. But think of Rome as maybe not the Amon-Ra of the offense, if I'm just trying to make, Ben Johnson and the Lions kind of comments. But I'm really thinking he's going to be, a very good receiver for this offense. I mean, if we just look at the numbers he did last year, just let me spoil the last name for you. But just looking at the wide receivers last year, you go back, you look at Rome Odunze, and look at his game log. I mean, 11, 29. He really barely had under 15-point games, especially towards... Is this standard? No. PPR. Okay. But point being is, again, he had a lot of good games, 15-plus point games. Maybe I'm overlooking it. But, again, the foot was definitely a problem. He missed a few games. He tried to come back. It didn't work out. I think if, there's been some doctors that are like, I don't know if he'll be the same, but... I'm hoping, in his third season, this is his breakout year. Rome Odunze with Caleb Williams. I don't see a reason why Luther Burden going around before him, just because he was doing well when Rome wasn't there. Now DJ Moore gone, and that's going to be a lot of targets to open up this offense. Yes, there's probably a lot of mouths to feed between Loveland and Rome and Luther, so it's definitely a risk. But round 6, you can get this guy in. That's crazy good value. Potentially flex, maybe your first bench spot. I like Rome Odunze a lot. Wide receiver 29, I think he's at least top 20. Luther Burden doesn't have a lot of ceiling for me. I just think Rome is the number one guy. I don't know if he gets 100 receptions, but maybe 80, maybe about 900 yards, maybe about 6 to 8 touchdowns. So that's what I'm expecting for Rome. Nothing crazy to be like a top 15, top 10 wide receiver, but kind of like a sneaky Cortland Sutton like last year, to where Sutton is a good he's a good touchdown monster in the red zone. Not that those two players are any similar at all, but kind of in similar situations to where Rome's going to get the ball. I don't know what point I was trying to make there, but last player, let's go Parker Washington. He actually led this team in receptions, targets. I mean, he was kind of Trevor Lawrence's guy to finish the season, and this kind of reminds me of the Chris Godwin of the Bucs offense when Liam Cohen was on the Bucs, coaching Baker Mayfield. And those first 9 games, if anybody remembers Chris Godwin's first half resurgence where he was doing amazing in fantasy football and then he got hurt, that's Parker Washington in this offense. He's the slot receiver. I absolutely love what Liam Cohen is doing in this offense. And I know you're probably scared, like, hey, Mike, Jacoby Myers is a thing. Brenton Strange is a thing. I don't know why I went in that order, but Brian Thomas is a thing. Travis Hunter is a thing. Yeah, I'm definitely not worried about those guys. Parker Washington proved himself to have multiple 100-yard games in the second half of last season, to where he wasn't really even playing to start the first half of the season. If you look at his game log, he was kind of trying to prove himself a little bit. So Parker Washington, again, first half of the season, you kind of have Tim Patrick kind of alternating games in and out. Jahan Dotson was their third receiver, I believe. I'm sorry, it was Daimi Brown, but still, I mean, look, he led the team in targets, yards, even touchdowns. Travis Etienne did have 6 receiving, but again, he's second in touchdowns. Let's look at his game log just because I want to show you he didn't do anything for the first half of the season. No targets, and then he had 5 catches, 76 yards, 4 catches, 34 yards. Then they kind of took him out for a game. He wasn't really, if you go look at the snap percentage, it was like 50, 20, 30, 0. The second half of the season, when he woke up, it was kind of this Vegas game and on. 8 for 90, 3 for 33 and a touchdown, 2 for 20. I believe he got hurt this game. One of these games he missed because he got injured in the first half of the game. I think it was maybe the Titans game. Yeah, because there was a week there in December he missed. But yeah, 145 yards against the Broncos, 115 yards against the Colts, 87 yards against the Titans, and even in the playoffs, 107 yards against the Bills. So it's not going to go away. I think he's going to be an absolute monster in this offense. Parker Washington is literally Chris Godwin on the Bucs in 2025 or whatever year Liam Cohen was on the Bucs, because that was absolutely unreal. So I think it was 24 actually. It might have been Baker's first season on the Bucs. So again, absolutely love Parker Washington. I know it's scary to draft a guy with a lot of receivers around, but I'm serious. Parker Washington, he's chopping wood and he's carrying it. Well, thank everyone so much for hanging out. This has been the 6 players that you have to draft. Again, Parker Washington going round 8, wide receiver 39. Kind of similar to where Chris Godwin was going in the year. He kind of had a good year before he got hurt. So, once again, thank you everyone for hanging out. Hopefully you draft all of these league-winning sleeper names kind of going under the radar. And let me know your thoughts in the comments of who you're drafting for fantasy. But this has been the Big Z Breakdown. We're doing fantasy content all season long. And I'll catch you in the next one.